1. My job was affected by Hurricane Beryl, and we've had no power all week, along with nearly every other store in the parking lot. My managers are still making anyone who shows up work in the heat. I don't mind that part too much. I'm used to the heat and want money. They even got generators for fans and let us wear casual clothes to stay cool. That's not the thing I'm frustrated about. Compared to every other store in this parking lot, we have backup lights that can't be turned off. I don't know how they're staying on, but I guess that generator works just fine. This confuses the customers and makes them think we're open. We've been closed this entire week to the public. The way my managers are handling the customer side of things is very questionable. The doors are locked and turned off. Google shows that we're open. Everyone assumes we're open because of stupid lights and seeing a bunch of people not in their uniforms inside. They won't let us put a handmade closed sign on the door. Why? It's not an official sign made by corporation. Apparently, some stores have had customers posting pictures of unofficial signage on Facebook. Then corporate has had a fit and says they can't do that. A sign informing people that we're temporarily closed due to a power out might fall under that. It's just so dumb. They've taken down any signs we've made as soon as they see them. Hey, that's dumb as hell. Then what do you tell the customer? We're told to ignore people standing at the door no matter how much they're peering inside or banging. Even if they try to pry the locked doors open, we're told to keep working and ignore them. If the managers think having a sign up will get them in trouble, what does blatantly ignoring people make us look like? On the other hand, a lot of these people that are on the brink of breaking in for some craft supplies are oblivious as hell. The doors are locked. I don't see many cars out at all. There's some lights on, but not all. Nobody's on the registers that seem to be powered off. I've been walking back and forth from these two doors for over 10 minutes. They must be open. If you're standing outside locked doors for any more than 5 minutes, you should put your thinking skills to the test and realize maybe something isn't right, like, I don't know, the store is not opening at that moment. Whenever I'm stuck outside waiting to be let in, I'm constantly bombarded by people that almost walked into the doors without looking. They look at me in shock. Are y'all open? No, we have a power out. We don't know when it's coming back on. They look inside. But the lights are on. Every other customer. I was being nice for the most part, but other factors today kind of made me grumpy. Almost every time someone is let in or out, some customer is trying to claw their way in. When I got off today, covered in glitter and sweat, a couple of people were outside. One guy asks about the usual. I give the same answer in short. I see him starting to point and immediately cut him off before he opens his mouth. That's the backup lights, they've always been like that. And I go to my car and leave. That's pretty much all. I just fear someone taking a picture of us working inside and posting it online. I'm following boss's orders, and feel like such an a-hole right now watching all these people come and go in either confusion or frustration. When we open back up, what are all these people going to say? If only a lot of this could be fixed with a closed sign or something. Then maybe the employees won't be blamed for not letting anyone in during normal business hours. Hellfreezer's note, your bosses are absolute morons. I've really got no more advice than this. They're morons. 2. I have 1,000,001 stories about customers being really awful, as I'm sure we all do, but for some reason, this is the one I'm reminded of most when I see people talking about their own experiences. I'm one of those freaks who actually loves customer service. I have a genuinely sunny disposition. I'm a massive extrovert. I love being helpful, problem-solving, and mindless, repetitive tasks. It's also pretty difficult to get to me. I think a customer has only hurt my feelings maybe twice. Otherwise, I find their behavior pretty laughable and just move on. However, even if a customer doesn't hurt my feelings, I'm not a doormat. This brings me to our tale. I was working back cash at a very popular fast food location in a small town. At that store, back cash is generally one person taking orders over headset while simultaneously cashing people out and directing them to the second window to pick up their order. It can be a little difficult when you first start, but once you get the hang of it, it's not bad at all. I made it a game, positioned the monitors so that I could imagine I'm running a communications center on a starship. Whatever helps, right? Anyway, I was really, really good at it. I'm a pretty good multitasker. One day it was pouring rain. We didn't have any kind of protection for cars and drive-through to block the rain at all, and I got a few complaints, but no one was overtly rude about it. Mid-lunch rush, this group of 3 or 4 older women come through. I go through my script and take the order. I ask if there's anything else I can get them, and the driver snaps at me that the rest of them need to order too. Okay, then. Do it so I can keep the line moving and my time down. She proceeds to order for the other 3 women, and gives me an attitude the entire time. Again, whatever. Boomer's gonna boom, and this is going to be a fairly small part of my day, all things considered. She gets to the window, and I repeat the total. And she does that annoying thing some customers do when they only put their hand up to their wrist out the window to hand you the card, so I have to lean out the window to get it. So I take the card, and begin to cash out their first order while taking the next person in lines. I'm going quickly, honestly, faster than anyone else at that store would have been. I hear her snap, "Come on now, I'm getting wet," as if I am personally forcing her to keep her hand out of the window while she waits. Sorry your liver spots are experiencing hydration for the first time, you crusty bitch. Anyway, at this point I decide that I can just make up my times, so I close the window and focus on the order behind them, before giving her the first card back and taking the next. I do this for each payment, the whole while she's shocked Pikachu. After that last transaction, I smile and direct her to the second window. Her face is red and she looks furious, but I never heard anything about it from anyone, so honestly, who cares? Small and petty victory, but I smile when I think about it. 3. I've done 6 years of retail work. 3 of them were as a general sales associate, 2 were in a shop management position, and 1 is currently in assistant store management. I thought it was just post-vacation depression, but I am absolutely miserable. The signs have already been there for a good year, but ever since my friends from Norway left from visiting me, speaking wonders about the work culture there and how good things are, my motivation in my job has been completely crushed. I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I'm 30 in a few months, and I feel like I have utterly wasted 6 years of life fruitlessly spinning the tires in a vain hope that I'll get somewhere in retail. The assistant store management role is laughable. It's hourly, $21.50 an hour, no overtime allowed except for November through January, obscene amounts of responsibility without the incentive to actually try or want to excel. I'm sickened by the customers and their vicious attitudes. The never-ending amount of freight constantly rolling in. Corporate, district, and regional meddling in the store operations, thinking they know better than we do on how to run a store, when all they do is sit in a cushy office all day making arbitrary, silly decisions that are not applicable to the real world, but expect us to implement them anyway. Refusal to hire any more help when we are far under the minimum roster for our store profile. So we have to pick up the slack and do the jobs of janitors, heavy lifting, and everything in between. I miss my friends so much. I miss Norway. I aspire to be there and work there, but I feel stuck at this job. I can't just get up and quit because it's my only source of income. I have a bachelor's degree in history, and I've thought about getting my MA by studying abroad in Norway or doing so here. But I don't know how I'm going to do this and still work full-time to have a place to live, be able to fuel my car, be able to feed myself, etc. I've thought about getting into what Norway would consider skilled work, IT, welding, carpentry, electrician, etc., and studying to get licensed in those here, but I feel like I'm going to run into the same problem, unless there's something that exists in the world where you can get paid to study and become certified. I tried my darndest to spin my years of frame shop management as skill to UDI and applied for jobs there, and nothing. So I've basically given up hope of that or retail providing a means to move there. My friend back there works for a tower crane operator, and said that I could do this here and take the skills with me as they hire immigrants all the time, but that the certifications in the US wouldn't carry over. Basically, I'm just open to trying anything at this point that gets me from point A to point B. I applied for a coding bootcamp to see if I can get my foot in the door with that, but once again, I don't know if I would still be able to work full-time and support myself while going to this program. It does not seem possible. The only reason I'm hesitant to give up this job is because of the vacation time I've accrued. It took 5 years to get 3 weeks of vacation, and after 10 I get 4. I have around $11,000 in my 401k from work and 120 hours of PTO. I cannot think of any job on the planet that would accommodate this for me right out of the gate. But correct me if I'm wrong. Part of me wants to tell myself that I should be content with this, that I have the vacation time to visit my friends at least once a year, and usually the money, though not always. But it doesn't mean anything in the end if I'm coming home from work every day feeling this horrible. I do not want to do retail anymore. I didn't go to school to be in retail. But I sure didn't go to school to sell my soul to the corporate state. Hellfreezer's note, you might want to look into courses you can take part-time. It would of course ultimately take longer, but at least while you're doing it, you would still have the stability of the income from your current job. And when you have the qualifications you need, you can start shopping around for other jobs that might suit your needs a bit more. Ideally, something that would transfer over to Norway, where it definitely sounds like you'd be much, much happier. 4. It was during the holiday season in the late 90s when I was working at an upscale department store in my town. Probably the nicest department store in that part of the state. So we were always super busy. Even more so during the holiday season. I was good enough of an employee that I always hired back during the holidays whenever I came back from school on winter break. It was a nice way to make some extra money to take back with me to spend on school supplies. It was after Christmas, and the post-holiday rush was on with people making returns or spending their gift cards. I had quite a line at my register as I was checking people out and doing their orders. I was pretty good, so the line moved along steadily. One of the managers, a small little man no taller than 5'4", was over at my station giving us a hand with a return. He was a nice guy and treated everyone fairly. However, he always seemed to wear suits that were 1 or 2 sizes too big for him on his small frame, thus making him look even tinier in his appearance. He had just finished helping on a return when he turned around and fell over some boxes we had behind the counter. He tumbled to the ground, uttering that, "Oh!" Luckily, he was all right, but visibly shaken. I helped him up, and he waddled off up the escalators. I finished helping the customers in line and asked one of my associates to cover the counter so I could take some other stuff into the back. When I finally got to the back room, I let out the loudest laugh I've ever had in my life. I laughed and laughed for a good 5 minutes. My eyes were filled with tears and my sides hurt from laughing. Just the sight of seeing that man falling to the ground was too much for me to hold in that I just had to let it out. As I mentioned, he was fine and all. I'm not that callous of a person to laugh at someone's misfortune, but it was to this day one of the funniest things I've seen in my life. 5. To lay out some context, I got hired on the spot for this position. That is a major red flag to begin with, but then again their opening day was the day after my interview. I'm 19, had a year break after high school, and found a job opportunity, and was hoping to learn and gain skills and experience. And I stumbled across this restaurant. I'm not sure whether it's even considered a cafe or a restaurant, that were looking for front of house. I haven't had any training for this job nor prior experience in hospitality, so I've worked my way up by having mostly learned from one coworker A, or from asking my boss, as she is the head chef. I've only worked at this job for close to 2 months. My boss is very much focused on having tight-knit staff, as in a team of 6, half of them having some relation to the boss, coworker A, who is a family friend of said boss. I had to call him out on vaping within the kitchen, and informed my boss about it. He also continued to harass me about my ethnicity, as he has yellow fever, massive weeb. All complaints from customers have been heard by my boss, and she's relayed them to me. Then recently we had a new coworker who just so happened to be another relative of our boss take my hours in the morning. She's only there to prepare the stuff, which I'm fully capable of doing on my own, which my boss should be aware of, as she praised me for how quickly I can prep in the morning. Well, I do things that my boss usually does when she arrives. Not only am I having my hours reduced, but I'm not even sure what the new coworker is getting paid, as she seems to run a business of her own elsewhere after she finishes prep at my work. Coworker A had once requested to the boss to have day shift hours and have me do night, but my boss insisted on keeping it the way it was, as she is aware of my unavailability at night as we open late, as well as the fact that my boss says that coworker A is slow at preparing things in the mornings. My boss has somewhat praised me for being able to do it faster, so I don't see any reason for why my boss is looking for somebody else to do morning prep either. And finally, I received a complaint from my boss about a customer who had visited twice over the past 2 weeks, who came a third time today while my boss was serving them and said, "That's better service," which made my boss question what the customer meant by that. Apparently, the worker who served her on those days was bad at communicating and didn't smile and just walked to the back of the kitchen after receiving the payment with no manners. The customer also pointed out that if it weren't for how good the food was, she wouldn't have returned. This was said in our group work chat, so all employees can view it, which I'm quite embarrassed about personally. I'm quite confident that the worker this customer complained about was me, as I have thought about it, and as I mentioned being both front of house and chef assist, I'm having to excuse myself from the till to prep food often, which I suppose customers don't realize how much I have on my plate. My boss put her own thoughts into the end of the message by saying in short, "If you can't be bothered to put in the effort, there's no point being here," which I thought was unnecessary. I find smiling to be exhausting, as anyone would, and I made a promise to myself not to be so insistent on displaying positive behavior as it drains my social battery. Every customer has a right to complain, but when we run a restaurant with one chef and a supposed front of house, me, who actually does more than what they applied for, juggling the assistant chef role because boss insists on having only 2 people working at once, including herself, it becomes difficult to navigate how much I'm supposed to be doing, compared to that of a front-of-house worker who does night shifts who barely enters the kitchen. My work role is not traditional and is very messy, which makes it difficult for me to know how much responsibility I'm supposed to hold. Looking for perhaps some advice or just comments on this strange work position as it's becoming very messy. Hellfreezer's note: as you said, you were hired very quickly, which is a red flag. They essentially want to pile as much work on you as they can get away with, and they'll keep doing that until it breaks you. Start looking for other jobs. You've got a bit of experience now that should hopefully help you get a foot in the door at some other place, a better place that'll treat you with more respect. But you definitely should get out of there as quickly as is reasonably possible. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 212. I think. I'll check that later. I'm fairly sure it is. You know what, let's just go with it. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I got very Scottish there. We'll continue that for the rest of the review. If you want to support this channel, then geese all your dosh by sending it on my Patreon page down there, down at the bottom. What's that button you click on? I got that. There's a Discord. I mean, what's a Discord? Make sure you want the course to be all nice and flow all good and all that. But anyway, there's a Discord, and there's a merchandise store for you on Teespring. Yeah, I can't keep that up for the rest of this. I'm Scottish, but I'm not that Scottish. Anyway, as I said, I have a Patreon. Support me over there for as little as $1 or more a month, and you get the videos all at once, including the newer stuff I'm making as and when they are ready. Okay, I don't think there's any other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is there a musical, or any other form of entertainment, I'm saying musicals because it's been on my mind a bit lately, that you think is objectively bad, but there's still much about it you enjoy? I can usually find something if I look at it and I think, I don't like this is bad, but I like these particular elements, and that makes it worth watching. I say that because Rent. I don't think it's good. That is not a new opinion. It is not a rare opinion. But there's a lot of the songs that I do enjoy, and I may have more to say about that in the future. But those are my thoughts for now. Why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. I have had one song, Glory, in my head, as sung by Will Chase, because that's the particular performance I enjoyed, for a few days now, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Fine. Anyway, yeah, so we'll move on to the answer of the day from a previous video. My brain's just not working well today. And today's answer comes from Fast Food and Retail 211, and it was about out-of-context sounds. Sounds that make you go, oh, well, what? That doesn't belong here. I mentioned the rooster sound that doesn't belong in a residential neighborhood, that it doesn't... I hear it in the morning, but I was out doing work in the garden earlier and have been for the past few days, and it's going throughout the day. Which I assume they probably do, but it is annoying. It's especially annoying when I can't wear noise-cancelling headphones to make it go. And today's answer comes from Annie Northman. And Annie's answer is... eluding me at the moment. I had it a second ago. Oh, there we go. That's rough. I've heard a lot of interesting sounds in my area. Fireworks, cards, kids screaming, loud talkers, dogs barking, chickens and roosters. My neighborhood can be a noisy place at times. Thank you very much for your answer, Annie Northman. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.